First of all, thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you'll enjoy this short webinar. My name is Margill. I'm the president of Juris Media and one of Margill's designers. I'm also an attorney, but a non-practicing one, I guess. The very first version of the software was created in 1992. It's used by thousands of law firms, courts, governments, legal departments, many insurance companies, bailiffs, trade unions, cities, etc. We sell the Margill products, these various types of software, in 41 countries actually. So we can really cover quite a few areas. Margill is used in many fields of law, including, of course, litigation, insurance law, family, tort law, labor law, commercial, municipal, tax. Real estate is quite popular, banking too, and of course for collections. We include tables and we monitor interest tables and indexation and the consumer price index for many countries, for all provinces, for all US states, Great Britain, European countries, etc., Australia. So if you're a user of Margill, of course, you'll have your interest tables, your judicial or your legal interest rates in the software. So let's begin. To Margill, we'll bring this across. So here's the software. You can blow up this window, make it smaller. I usually don't work with a very large window. There's no need. So that's up to you. So to begin, let's see now. So I can go to new calculations to create a new calculation, or I can go to here and see my various elements. So let's begin with the most common calculation is really the interest on one amount between two dates. I think you all know this one, where I can put in my header 1. This could be the Joe versus Jane. Header 2 would be the court case, for example. I would start, let's say on 06/06/2016 is when I have a judgment. I can calculate my pre or post judgment interest here. And I want to know the interest up until today. And if I want to include today's interest, I would put tomorrow's date, since the interest is calculated up until midnight if I put in tomorrow's date. So 11/28/2019. I have my various methods. If I'm in doing legal calculations, it is usually simple interest, or we often see also in the US, specifically for government owed debts, simple interest capitalized. So in other words, interest is actually compounded at various frequencies as opposed to simple interest where there's no interest on interest. These methods are more the banking methods, what we call the effective rate method. We see this less in law unless you're doing some calculations to compute the outstanding amounts on mortgages or loans, for example. So let's just stick right now to simple interest. Notice my compounding goes away, it becomes grayed out. My annual interest rate, I can put in a rate if I want, or I can use a fixed interest rate by an interest table based on various rates. Here I have my default is the Michigan rates. And if I go see tables, I'll see all my rates for the state of Michigan for the various years. If I'm in Canada, I can pick up, for example, the Alberta rates, the BC rates, whatever the Ontario rates. So let's just use these rates. If I use fixed unique rate at starting date, this means I'm trying to use the date I will start. I'll use the interest rate on 06/02/2016. I will not use a variable rate. It'll be fixed. This is really, I know in Ontario they have this. So let's just keep to this. My principal is 50,000. I will not add on top of it. I could say it's these rates plus X percent. And I can say even that these rates, this percentage to add will kick off on this effective date. I won't go that far. So I'll compute, and it's very simple. There's usually my prejudgment interest with every single rate change is in there. And of course I can print it, I can save it and come back to it later on if need be. So a very straightforward calculation. The most powerful calculation in Margill is what we call recurring payments or amortization. It can be used to calculate loans, mortgages, lines of credit. You can use this to collect various amounts. We often see this in law, in real estate law, where a mortgage was supposed to be paid, but it was not paid on time. Payments were late, payments were not made, fees were charged, etc. So we could do this calculation with this. Well, we can use this calculation. So let's start with an example here. I could put the names in here. I'll say this is a regular loan with the banking method. Let's say this is a loan where I want to compute the unpaid portions, etc. So the loan starts on 06/06/2018. First payment is usually a month later. Notice my date format is month, day, year. It could be month, day, month, year, depending where you are. So we'll put in month 07/06/2018. I'll use a fixed interest rate of 10%. Compounding is monthly. It could be other. Mortgages in Canada would be semi-annual. Payment frequency monthly, and let's say it's 150,000 over, let's say 10 years, so 120 payments. Payment is unknown, so I simply go here and compute. I can completely edit this. I can blow this up a bit. So there's my regular payment. So what would happen now? I would go in and say, okay, this was paid, fine. These are all paid. This one was only paid, $1,000 were paid here. So I can change. There was nothing paid here, so 0. Notice how my balance changes as we make payments and we change payments. And actually this payment was made for only $500, and it was paid not on 04/06, but on the 25th of April. So we go like this. So I can insert lines, add new lines. If I wanted to charge fees, I can even insert lines here. I could say because this was unpaid, I could go in, or it's a partial payment, I can put in minus $25 here. And of course, when I say dollars, it could be euros, it could be pounds, it doesn't matter. We have all these jurisdictions, and these would show up as pounds or euros or something else based on your Windows format. So see, this is really adjusted as you want it. So I can do just about anything in here. I could put a comment, etc. Anywhere. If I was, let's go one step further with this calculation. I don't want to save the changes. Of course, if you change and you save it, you can always update it as time goes on. Let's go one step further and say this is, we see this in law quite often. We have irregular payments and irregular draws. So instead of being, and let's go back to simple interest. Notice now it becomes grayed out, and I want to have irregular payments in here. Okay, you can read these things. And I can go in and add irregular payments. So I could go in here, okay, on this 150,000 was owed, so a judgment of 150,000, and the opposing party paid $1,000 here. I could put a comment, blah, blah, blah. Then they also paid on 09/09/2018. They paid $5,000 with a comment. There was something else happening. There was a second part to the judgment on 10/10, whatever, 2000, it doesn't matter the date, 2018. And there was a second amount, so there was a second part to the judgment of $25,000. And I could say this is second part of judgment. Notice also I can import through an Excel file. So if I had thousands of transactions or hundreds of transactions or dozens, whatever, I can go in with a very simple Excel file, put in the date, the amount as a plus or a minus, and have a comment. So very easy to have a whole series of transactions. What we often see here are invoices. So invoices would be negatives, and when the person actually pays, they'd be positives. So very quick to do. And when I save, I then go compute, do not show again. I then have this very straightforward, do not show again, calculation. And I can go in, oh yes, I missed something, or I can add new lines. I want to compute the interest up until today, add one line or many lines. So I want to know the interest up until today. So 11/28/2019. And that's it. So we know that this total amount, the person would owe 193,000 since they only paid 6,000. There was an extra 25, and I want to know the interest up until today. I can insert a new line right above. Let's say he made another payment on whatever, 12/12/2018. He paid 6,500. So there we have it. It's that easy. So you can update this, save it, and come back to it. Save changes, no. Let's go even one step further. Let's get rid of the irregular payments and put in as if they were monthly payments. But I want to activate the judgment module. So I'll just put in dates 06/06/2018. My rate, you see here, in this case, it's the BC post judgment rates. I can go in and say, okay, I want to activate the module. I want to add court fees. So I say, okay, I want to add court fees as of my origination date, or I can put them in later on. It doesn't matter. I can even have pre-judgment interest. So I had pre-computed interest from the judgment date, from the start of the proceedings to the judgment date. And I pre-computed this, and I usually say no interest on this amount. So I had, let's say, 6,000 in pre-judgment interest. $6,000. No interest on this. I can also specify a whole series of refund methods, and you can set up your own methods also. So I'll accept this, and I'll say no interest on court fees and no interest on pre-judgment interest. Accept. This amount is great. Oh, okay, I have to put an amount. Let's say there's a court cost of $500, and accept. So there I have a judgment for $100,000, for example, with the BC rates, and the person wants to pay in a series of, he wants to pay this off in 12 payments, for example. I leave this blank, I compute, and there we have a slightly more complicated schedule. As you notice now, I have these, what we call line statuses, all my dates, the amounts. These are court fees. And as I add something in there, let's say the person doesn't pay here, I'll say there's a payment of 0, or I'll say it's an unpaid payment. I can charge fees. So I would insert a line, and I'll say here, I want to have other fees with no interest. And I'll put in a negative amount. So mine is $25. So those are my fees. So it's really the same thing. I can adjust any payment here. I can change my dates. I can add new court fees. So if I wanted to add more court fees, let's say I change this to court fees instead. Court fees, no interest. And you notice they become minus, so I put in minus $550, etc. So as they're paid, notice my rate changes here also. If I scroll across, the balance is always recomputed, and it shows how the monies are distributed. This is the total in the principal portion, so the judgment portion. These are my court fees. I charged $500, I paid them. I charged $550, and they were paid right here because of my refund order. My pre-judgment interest was initially charged and really paid quite quickly because of my order. And finally, here I have my other fees, which are charged and then paid, no interest on these. And at the end, I have my balances everywhere. So it's a very, very powerful calculation. I could insert new lines. I can add lines at the end. I can do just about anything on this. I can save it and come back to it and update it over time. When I print, I can print each of my type of fees or my type of monies and have my daily, my per diem right here. So really, this calculation can do just about anything. And here, if I can put my comment here. So very powerful stuff. Save changes, no. And let's go on now to what we call arrears. So I'll exit from here and we'll bring back my arrears. So calculations, we go to arrears. So what are arrears? Of course, they're calculation of unpaid or late salaries, rent, alimony, or any type of annuities which were not paid. So it's always the same principle. So let's say it's simple interest. My arrears started on 06/06/2017. Date of first arrear, which was unpaid, is right here. Let's say this is a salary, so it's paid every 2 weeks. I go in by days, and I say every 14 days. Could be every 7 days. It gives you flexibility. It could be if it's a mortgage or some kind of alimony, it could be on a monthly basis. So what I want to do here is let's say it's $1,000 every 2 weeks. My rate will be, I'll come back to my Michigan rates. I can even index these amounts. If I wanted to index them, I can index them to various. This is the Canadian Consumer Price Index. I could use the European ones, the American Price Index, etc. If we had a salary and they were automatically indexed, you could use the trade union's indexation based on the contract. So you create your own indexation file here. I won't index mine. So $1,000 every 2 weeks. Let's compute and validate. Oh, I have to say up until when? I want to know up until today. 11/28, whatever, 2019. And do not show again. Let's close this up. And there's my schedule. Notice I'm starting off with 0 and it's going up and up and up and up every single month. And there I have all my interest and how much it adds up to. Oh, notice I indexed. So the rates changed here, that's why. If, for example, I say here there's actually a 2,000 that was owed, I could go and change this amount. Let's make this a bit bigger here. There we go. So let's stretch this out a bit. I can hide some columns if I don't need them, etc. If an amount was actually paid, I'd say nothing was owed. So it's the opposite. It's actually it was actually paid, so it was not owed. And if the person was late, I could actually go in. He was supposed to pay on 08/15, but he paid on the 22nd. Then he actually owes 1,000. So it's the opposite. It was owed here, then paid here, or the opposite was now owed here, etc. So it's kind of very practical. And you can add new lines or insert lines at the end as needed. You can always update it over time, and it will always give you a balance. And you can put a comment anywhere you want. So again, a very useful calculation. Save changes? Nope. Of course, you can change, you can save and update it over time. So we're getting there. The next one is what we call the present value calculation. We often see this, many judges use this calculation, insurance companies. We see this also in the value of a company. So I want to see, based on my future cash flows, what's the valuation of this company. Let's keep this within more torts. For example, I can go in and say, okay, I have an amount. We'll put in today's date. It'll go in automatically. I want to know $1,000. The person will receive $1,000 for the rest of his or her life every month. Change this to monthly. And I can say up until, or we can put in a number of installments. I'll say for next, the person life expectancy, another 20 years. So I'll put in 240 arrears or installments. The interest rate will be, so my discount rate would be, let's say 3.5% on a monthly basis. Oh, actually on an annual basis, but these are paid monthly. So what is the present value of this? It is $172,000. Notice my schedule here. It gives you the present value for each of the amounts. We notice that an amount, $1,000 paid in 2039 would be worth for almost $500 today. Of course, it's coming in so late that it's not worth that much. This is also used for structured settlements, in which I could do the opposite, actually. I could say I have 250,000. I want to structure this in a different way. 250,000. I would put this down to 0. And how much would my payments be? Continue. So there's the amount. 250,000 would be 1,449 if I was to structure this amount here. So you can also change these amounts. If I want to say, okay, here I want to put in actually 5,000 would be paid, and then the present value is recalculated. I could say, well, there'd be no payment for this year, so I can go in, I believe, right-click and modify the installments to 0, and so everything is recalculated, etc. So quite powerful to do just about any scenario you want. Okay. I could also do this on a daily basis. I could say it's $10 a day for the next 5 years. How much is it worth? Or every 2 weeks or whatever. Of course, you can save it and update it over time. So lastly, a couple of other useful calculations in law. I got other calculations. One is the amount indexation. Let's say, for example, I have a judgment which is exactly like my judgment, but this was a judgment which dates back from 1999. So let's say 05051999. I want to know how much this is worth today in 2019. So 0505 2019. This is based on a Canada Consumer Price Index. I could have used, of course, the US, the Great Britain Price Index, etc. It doesn't really matter. US CPI. Pretty much the same inflation in all countries these days, in all of the modern countries. So it would be worth $76,000 today. This is the US Consumer Price Index. If I do the opposite, I could actually clear this and say, okay, I want to know $100,000 today. How much was it worth in 0606 2005? And then it's 05 or whatever 2019, and I compute. So it was worth $75,000. $100,000 today was worth $75,000 back then. It goes. You can flip it around as you wish. Other calculations we see in banking is what we call the nominal effective interest rate converter. So if I have a loan that's compounded monthly at 15% a year, the effective rate is 16.0755. This will only ring a bell if you're in banking law. I can do the opposite. What's 15? What's effective interest rate 15? What's nominal 14%? Okay. The other things we see, the sales tax calculations, that's kind of useful. I use this personally, really. If I go in calculations and I go sales tax, and here, okay, I have, well, these are states, but I wouldn't mix these together. There'd be only one. So if I have the Alabama tax is 4%. I want to know on $100, how much is my amount with no taxes. It could be, of course, I can choose a whole bunch of states or provinces, etc. And you can save your defaults in there. Okay. Lastly, we have a calculation on dates. I don't ever use this, but you could say how many days are there between these two dates, etc. My next deadline in 90 days, etc. And you can do a bunch of fun little things, which I never use personally. So that pretty much covers Margill. If ever you were to do bad, you finance your clients. For example, you finance your fees or the expenses, or you do what we call litigation loans, or you're really deeply into collections, we have another product called the Margill Loan Manager, in which this really could be a game changer for you. These are all my individual loans or judgments or mortgages or whatever, my collections. They can all be in here, and I can do a bunch of operations. I can batch pay things. I can run reports, etc. So it could be a very useful tool. Many law firms use this to do more sophisticated loans and calculations and for collections. Lastly, we also offer batch services. If you need to do calculations, for example, overtime pay on thousands or hundreds of employees, we can do these calculations for you. We also or looking at unpaid vacations. If you have thousands of invoices where we have to calculate the amounts due on these, we can create these batch interest calculation services. So essentially, I think that covers Margill. We could go on for hours. We do give training either on-site or remotely. We can do an hour or two of training. Sometimes we actually do go over to larger law offices. So really feel free to contact us. There is a user guide in Margill. If I go on here, there's a user guide. There's also online per se, if you go on law, you can consult our knowledge base where we answer clients' questions. So that's kind of useful. There's a quick start user guide, very short and sweet to give you an overview of the system. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please give us a call, or you can email me personally at this address. So thank you very much for being here, and feel free if you have anything. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.